Good day, everyone, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're Zooming in from. My name is Katie Hargrove, and I have the distinct pleasure of getting to work with Andrew Freedman every day. For those of you who know Andrew, you already know this is going to be an awesome, action-packed conversation. For those of you meeting Andrew for the first time today, I'd love to share a little bit about him to set the stage. For over 25 years, Andrew Freedman has been helping to design strategies that give leaders a foundation to translate individual, team, and organizational talent into tangible business growth. As managing partner of Shift Consulting, he's worked with businesses of all shapes and sizes to truly help them foster vibrant company cultures and a high-performance mindset. He is truly all in on helping teams reach their full potential, so much so that he actually wrote a best-selling book called Thrive, The Leader's Guide to Building a High-Performance Culture. Andrew is an affiliate faculty member of the University of Baltimore. And between teaching and consulting, he's really a pro at creating unique solutions for leaders and organizations. And this is your opportunity to ask him your most difficult questions. Now over to you, Andrew. Let's get started.
Thanks, Katie. I appreciate that. You ad-libbed on me a little bit. I don't know that we said people were going to be able to ask me their most difficult questions, and I'm looking right at Colette. And I know she's always got difficult questions, so I'll see if I can handle the toughest of the group. We'll see. But I appreciate everybody joining and that intro, and I'm excited. If one can be excited to talk about burnout, I actually am excited to talk about this. It's been a hot issue in the workplace, especially over the last year. There's so much research, so many conversations going on about this today that we're going to have a really robust opportunity to have some good dialogue. A couple things you want to know: we do have the chat feature enabled, and we've got folks from Shift who are monitoring the chat line. So if you have questions or as you have comments, which I'm sure you will, type them into chat, and if we can respond back immediately, somebody from our team will. And if there are things that we need to follow up with you after because you've just got a question that requires some more one-on-one time, we will definitely give that to you as well. All right, that's it. Away we go. We'll start with a quote. It's one of my favorites from Marcus Aurelius. I didn't know him personally, as none of us here probably did, but this is one of my favorites. And that is, the impediment to action is the action, and what stands in our way actually becomes the way. And this concept, this conversation around burnout really is so relevant to this quote, because people are talking about, I'm so burned out. It's like when you decide that you're going to get a car of a certain color or a certain type, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. And this conversation around burnout has really bloomed in a pretty incredible way. When we first started hearing about it, it really caught on. And there were articles written by Adam Grant. It's like, hey, there's it's not actually burnout you're feeling, maybe it's languishing. And there's so many labels that have been put around this that has just exploded with the number of people who are feeling burned out. And that is actually getting in their way from being and doing their very best. And what I would offer and will offer as we go through this conversation today is to actually not fight it and not use however you or your team members are feeling as a blocker. Don't try to fight it and block it. Let's actually welcome the conversation and let's explore it a little bit. And then let's see what we can learn to equip you to be an even better leader and also to manage how you might be feeling in your personal life. So the playlist that we've got for today is really three things that we're going to focus on. Number one, we're going to talk about the reality of burnout. We're going to talk about the role that leaders and employees, this is not just leaders, leaders and employees play in preventing, in controlling, and also reversing burnout, and how you and your teams can thrive amidst change and chaos. And if you're somebody who loves data, we've got it for you. If you're somebody who really loves stories, we've got it for you. If you're somebody who likes practical examples and things that you can walk away with to tangibly put in play right away, we've got it for you today. You're going to get all that and some more. First, this is your first official opportunity to go to the chat box. So here's what I'd like you to just type in. How is burnout affecting you and or your team? So let's make this a little bit personal, because it is. How is burnout affecting you and or your team? Go right into the chat box and just type in. Every one of you is having some experience with burnout, I'm confident, either directly, through colleagues, through people that you lead. Teresa, thanks. Lack of patience with each other. Yeah, making mistakes. Hey, Megan. Too many things to focus on, which means not doing any one thing well. Yeah, flagging morale. What's up, Sue? Yeah, absolutely. It has certainly been impacting morale, productivity, for sure. What else? Lack of focus, general mental exhaustion. Yeah, yeah. Physically and emotionally exhausting. Agree. Affects performance, and it seems perpetual. Yeah, Kristen, I agree. That's one of the things that people have really struggled with is, it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight, and that's one of the things that humans don't deal really well with. Is when there's no certainty, we get a little itchy, among other things. Isolated. Absolutely. All right, this is great. Keep the comments coming. I appreciate you giving me this context to just see where you are. So as we go through this, I'll try to include what you're saying, what you're voicing in the discussion. So the World Health Organization recently came out with their 11th revision of the International Classification of Diseases. And what they term burnout as is actually an occupational phenomenon. So again, if you dig research, here is some for you. I'm going to run through a few slides that have some. And so how did they define burnout? Well, it's a syndrome. That's what it is. It's a syndrome, according to them, conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress. This is workplace related that has not been successfully managed. And as you see below that, it's not classified as a medical condition, and it refers specifically to the phenomenon in occupational context. And it's about energy depletion, exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, right? Feeling like, I'm separated. I'm not as engaged as I otherwise would be. Feelings of negativism or cynicism, and reduced professional efficacy. So a lot of the things that you all mentioned, WHO has actually put some description to this in their 11th revision. So that's one piece of data that you want to understand about how this is being viewed. There's an organization I've recently become part of. It's a community, actually, of leaders who are really geared towards just changing the way that we lead in the world. It's called Human Leaders. The person who runs it is Alexis Zahner. She's a fantastic woman. She and a couple of her colleagues, Sally Clark and John Chan, recently did some research and put on a session about workplace burnout. And this is some of the data that they shared from a study that they did, their global burnout study in 2021. So 73% of those experiencing burnout last year suggested they were less productive in their work. No surprise there. And 56% who were experiencing burnout said they had produced lower quality work. So not only less productive, but Megan, I think you had said this, people are producing lower quality work. So just, these are some things that you want to be looking for as a way to know, are your colleagues, is your organization maybe suffering from some of this? Some more data for you. This is in specific context of pre and post pandemic. So looking down on the bottom left, when asked to describe how people currently feel when they think about work, 70% say they're anxious and stressed, and that's compared to 27% pre-pandemic, and 11%, only 11%, content or energized, as opposed to 63%. That's a big deal when you think about how people are actually experiencing life and experiencing work. If you dig graphics, here's one for you. If you're a picture kind of guy or gal, just putting some more data to the actual numbers. How are people, do you feel you're suffering from burnout? You can see the information there. How do you currently feel about work? Again, this just re-emphasizes anxious or stressed. This one came from our friends at Korn Ferry. And just a little more data. So as we think about, all of this burnout and people, whether you call it the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle or the Great Reevaluation or fill in your blank for your great, whatever the great is. It's a lot of data around why people are leaving workplaces. And in some cases, when employees are saying that they're leaving, what they're saying or what their bosses believe is, well, gosh, this other organization just threw a bunch of cash at my people. They went for twice as much money. There's nothing I could do about it. It's just, we're not dealing with equal playing fields. And while that may be true to a degree, people, are getting more cash thrown at them. Based on a study that was done by the folks at MIT Sloan, top predictors of attrition during this Great Resignation in relation specifically to compensation. Toxic corporate culture, 10 times more important than comp. 3.5 times job insecurity and reorganization. So back to anxiety, stress, uncertainty. This is how people are feeling. This is not an individual thing, gang. This is what's important for you to take from this data that I'm sharing with you, is these are organizational, system-wide issues. High levels of innovation, failure to recognize employees' performance, 3 times as important as compensation, poor response to COVID, almost 2 times. And in a lot of cases, what that means is there has been no response or no consistent response. Are we coming back to the office or not coming back to the office? What are we doing to make people feel safe when they come back to the office? A lot of cases, I get it. It's been tough for people to figure it out. But when you don't communicate with clarity and consistency to your people, if you don't help them feel connected to where we're going, why, and how we're caring for each other, if they don't believe it's a physically or psychologically safe environment, they're going to leave. They're going to leave. And all you can do is just look at the data in your organization and others to know that what I'm saying is absolutely and fundamentally true. So data, data, data. Now, when we think about the truth, because I just shared with you this, this is true, part of what I want you to get down with, this quote, which I also love, is that the truth isn't going to change. It does not change according to our ability to stomach it emotionally. So it's not about how you feel about this, right? And you're maybe wanting to fight it. Like, this doesn't apply to my organization. This doesn't apply to my culture. This doesn't apply to my people. This isn't true. Or people just have to like soldier up. They got to deal with it. They got to muscle through it. That's all refuting reality. You're not dealing with reality if that's where your mindset is, and that's then how your behaviors and your belief structure come to play. The truth of the situation isn't going to change based on your ability to stomach it emotionally. So the first thing, or the next thing that I would share with you is we've got to come to grips with the reality of the situation, accept it, almost fall in love with it, if you can imagine that. I'm not exaggerating here. Accept it and fall in love with what's going on so that we can, through embracing it, deal with creating a new reality. Now, we talked a lot about stress. This is some data that would also be good for you to know. It's drivers of stress, 4 categories as we've laid these out that cause stress. When something is new, if I've never experienced it before, there is some level of stress that comes with that. If it's unpredictable, like none of us had any idea that COVID and this pandemic was going to happen the way that it did, and many leaders did not anticipate that the Great Resignation would follow. So, unpredictability, if we didn't know that something was going to occur, that causes stress. Threat to ego. This is really, really important. At the most base level, people try to protect themselves, their sanity, their safety, their security, their financial security, their family security. When a person's safety or competency is called into question, that causes stress. And when a person's sense, not necessarily reality, but when their sense of control is minimal or absent, this causes stress. And you can see over to the right, there's gradation of stress. There can be things that are positive stress. When we're stressing a system, it can cause us to think. It can cause us to come up with new ideas. It can cause us to innovate. When a person is exercising, stress on the muscle to a degree is what helps it grow and build endurance. So there is some positive stress. There's some tolerable stress, but then there's also toxic stress. And how you can look to see what is going on for you and your people as a leader is to just look for some of these signs of the impact of stress. And all of these things have to do with the burnout that you and your team is seeing and feeling. So you can look at some of these effects from the previous causes of stress: withdrawal, substance abuse, outbursts, overeating, and undereating. I am going to talk for a minute on this first one because sometimes people take what might otherwise be a healthy habit or a healthy practice, and they might overdo it in a way where it becomes actually not healthy. So eating, we've got overeating and undereating here, but you can also think about sleeping. You can also think about exercising. You can also think about working. Sometimes people dig in deeper and it actually becomes unproductive. And that can be the impact of stress. If I oversleep, that's actually not good for my system. If I overexercise, my body might break down. If I overwork, there's other parts of my life that's going to negatively impact. So you do want to look at this for yourself and your people and understand how are folks dealing with the different stresses that they're encountering every day. And I'm going to give you some tools on how you can do that. Effects on mood you want to look for, and this was some of the things that you all put in chat. Are you or are your people showing up a little more anxious, overwhelmed, restless? Are they depressed? Is their energy off? Are they just more like brain fog, brain cloud, disorganized brain, reduced coherence? You're dealing with people who are, maybe normally they're getting stuff quick, they're super competent, they process very fast, and maybe you're seeing some changes in that. They didn't all of a sudden turn into a not smart person or a not competent person. There might be some other things going on. You want to look at these indicators. And then physical effects on your actual body: headaches, sleep problems, fatigue, upset stomach, chest pain. These are all manifestations that we might not be handling stress in the way that we want. And I realize in this very hybrid world today, what we talk about, a number of the folks here at Shift when we're dealing with clients is managers and leaders are saying, but I'm having a tough time, Andrew and team. I'm having a tough time understanding, are my people experiencing this stuff? Because I'm not in the same physical room with them. So how am I supposed to know this over Zoom or over Teams or on a conference call? How do I do that? Again, I'm going to give you some tools today, and we're happy to engage with you in other conversations outside of today if you need some help. So this is all what is and things you can be looking for. It's probably my favorite slide of the entire one. Jeff, this one's for you. I'm not sure why this one's for you, Jeff, but this one's for you. So this is our two-headed monster. This is a complex situation. It's not, as I mentioned, all on the individual, and it's not all on the leader, this burnout topic. It's actually two-headed monster. We've got to look at this through the lens of the leader and also through the lens of the individual. So talking about the leader first, go back to the chat. When you think of the role of the leader in creating a high-performance culture, how would you describe that? What is the role of leader in creating a high-performance culture? Because that's really what we're talking about. Not just driving for results, but healthy, high-performing, winning culture. What's the role of the leader? Type your answer in chat. The role of the leader in creating a high-performance culture. And all of you are leaders in your own right. So personalize this. What is your role in creating a high-performance culture? Empathy, transparency, engagement, and listening. Appreciate that, Megan. Live by example. Great one, Jess. Making sure every member of the team has the right support. Love that. Goal setting, modeling the behavior. Yep. Inspiring others to achieve a common goal. These are great. Psychological safety, Michelle. Yep. Love that. Been a lot of research, done and recently talked about psychological safety and the importance of that. Facilitating and coaching success by leading through example. Yes, I love that. Clear and consistent expectations. These are great. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Said in one sentence also, as you all are doing, here's our definition. The role of the leader is to create a barrier-free work environment. And what we mean by that is there are things that get in the way of your people doing and being their very best every day. And the role of the leader is to understand these from a systems-based approach, systems-based thinking. What are the barriers that are getting in the way of our people, of your people, doing and being their very best? And then how can you, with their help, reduce or eliminate those barriers? And so I mentioned this is a systems issue. Katie mentioned the book Thrive. This is well documented in there. In the model that we use, there are 6 major influences. This is important for y'all to get. So, jot these down as they're up on the screen for a minute here. There are 6 major influences that really will lead to your ability to build this high-performing culture, one where individuals, teams, and the organization more broadly can win consistently at high levels. If you think about this diagram as if you look at the horizon line, just cut it horizontally across the middle here. The 3 influences at the top, these are ones that are organizational influences. The 3 at the bottom, these are the things that the human brings to his or her jobs. We're going to talk about the 3 at the top for a moment. Expectations and feedback, environments, systems, and resources, recognition, rewards, and consequences. These are things that leaders put in place. And it's critical that these things are well aligned so that people can do their very best every day. And when they're not in alignment, or they're built in a way that isn't successful, it creates stress on the system and it actually pops up barriers. Example, if expectations are unclear for people, especially as you've developed new realities in your work over the past 2 years, new expectations for roles, how people need to do their work, what winning in the role actually looks like. If those expectations are unclear, and or the feedback that you provide is either not timely, it's not constructive, it's not reinforcing, it's not essential, and it doesn't develop the person, right? If those things aren't in place, then feedback isn't useful. Employees don't get the benefit of the wisdom that you or your colleagues can provide to them. Their performance is going to suffer. And so then when you think about how that ties to something like rewards, recognition, and consequences, if the expectations and feedback aren't in place well, then the consequences of not performing well may seem unfair to that individual. You didn't tell me I needed to do this, and you're not giving me any feedback, reinforcement, or support, but now you're telling me that I'm not doing a good job. That seems out of whack to individuals. That increases anxiety, that increases stress, that increases the likelihood that your people are going to feel less than, and they'll probably feel more burned out and be more likely to leave. So we're going to dig into those top three influences in a moment. Back to our friends at Human Leaders, the way they said it, which I really love, is when leaders and organizations put the onus on the individual only to manage burnout without addressing their role, the leader's role, in the cultural and systemic contributors to it, it's akin to putting out a fire by blowing on the smoke. You're actually not smothering the flame. You can see that that's actually causing the burnout. Not smothering the flame, it's actually causing the burnout. So here is a way that you can think about this, just from a reflection standpoint. Expectations and feedback. You can ask yourself these questions. You can jot these down. And again, afterwards, we're going to send you this entire deck with the recording, so you'll get it, but you might want to jot down a few of your favorites from each of the next 3 slides that I'm going to show you. When it comes to expectations, are clear and measurable performance standards communicated so that people know how well they're expected to perform? And this doesn't mean, did you tell them once? And this doesn't mean, did you send out an email or did you talk about it in a town hall? Are people really clear? And how would you know that they are? Just be asking yourself, how can you double check that what you think is obvious to people is actually obvious? That where you think there's alignment, there is actually alignment. And if there isn't, no judgment, right? Your job is to reduce that barrier, that lack of clarity. So you want to make sure that the expectations are clear. Do the incumbents in the role accept the standards as reasonable? So you might have expectations, and people that are in the role might say, this is like, you're crazy. I can't tell you how many times we work with organizations and we get down to leader levels and even frontline levels, and they go, corporate sets these budgets. I mean, they're completely unrealistic. I'm just going to do my very best. That's really all that I can do. The expectations, they're just not reality based. Like, they ask us what we think we can do, and then they double or triple it anyway. So it's kind of a pointless exercise to go through budgets. If that resonates with any of you, and I know many of you on this call, so I can imagine that it probably does. You've got misaligned expectations. You're already setting up a system that isn't going to work, where people can do and be and feel their very best every day. That's a problem. When you think about feedback, number 4, is it timely? Is it frequent? And is it reinforcing enough to help people remember what they did? Real-time or near to real-time feedback is critical. And we don't have the benefit, I don't think anybody on this call, of being like a professional athlete, like a basketball player. I use this example a lot. If you're a basketball player and you shoot the ball, it either goes in or it doesn't. That's immediate feedback that you're getting, right? Ball didn't go in, you need to adjust something. Ball went in, you probably want to replicate that. In the work that your people are doing every day, they don't have somebody that's giving them real-time feedback most of the time. So how is it that they're going to know what they should be replicating? They could be their own observer, and some people do that really well, but it's hard. So you want to think about and actually ask your people, how can we get better at installing a system of more near to real-time feedback so that people can remember, I did this, I was thinking this, I did this, it worked, I should replicate that. Number 5, is the feedback that you're giving essential? Meaning, is it limited to a few essential matters of importance and free of vague generalities? Like, I had somebody that we were working with, and the employee said, well, my boss told me that I'm not a good team player. I said, well, what does that mean? And she said, I don't really know, but I didn't get the promotion I was after because, that's what my boss told me. I need to be a better team player. That's really vague. That's not helpful. The person didn't know what to do as a result of that. And so she was left toiling, disengaged, disconnected from her manager, and did wind up leaving the organization. Not only because of that, but you get the point. So that's expectations and feedback. That contributes to this systemic issue of burnout that we're feeling. Environments, systems, and resources. You want to look at the job design of the role. Are there examples of exemplary performance in the critical roles? Are there role documents and performance support to mitigate performance issues and errors? This is what we're talking about when we say organizational systems and resources. Are there things that people can look at that they can grab onto to help them perform their role better? This is the leader's job to make sure these things are in place. Not just a job description and not just, canned training curriculum. I mean, real stuff that's clear that people can look at, that they can use, that can be reinforced, and that they can watch others who model so that they know the standards they need to perform to. Procedures. Are the procedures efficient and designed to eliminate unnecessary steps? So many times we see new technology systems rolled out, and right now there's a lot of innovation that's happening in organizations is they're rethinking and reimagining how they do their work. When you're redesigning these things, are you actually including the people who are doing the work in the redesign, in the rethinking, and in the reimagining? They are the people who know the work the best. And oftentimes they're given a gift of, I love my friends in IT, but a technology department who's responsible for, doing the big technology rollout or process redesign, and, or leaders do it and they think like, hey, this is going to be great. Our people are going to love it. They don't ask them. And so they're, the employees are given a gift of an improved process that actually makes their job harder and introduces unnecessary steps. So we want to be thinking about that from a procedural level. And then the third, influence recognition, rewards recognition, and consequences. Think about things like all of these for sure, but number 4, one of my favorites, is good performance free of punishing consequences. What the heck does that mean? That doesn't seem normal, right? It is actually. Sometimes the biggest reward that people who are your best people get is more work. They're really good, and so they get another project, they get a bigger workload, they get a bigger territory, they get an additional initiative to lead, they get more responsibility. And look, high performers oftentimes love that. And you really do want to be thinking about even your best of your best, they burn out. They get a little crispy. I know, again, many of you on the line that I've had conversations with over time, that you just hit your breaking point too. And it's like, isn't anybody else going to help out here? There's a limit to how much more I can take. So you want to think about that. Are you actually punishing your best people by overworking them? And then you want to think about number 7, is your environment free of incentives to perform poorly? So if I'm somebody that's not performing well, and it's clear that I'm not performing well, and you just allocate some of my quota or some of my workload to somebody else to make up for my deficiencies, are you really handling my poor performance? Am I learning? Am I getting better? Or are you signaling to the rest of the organization, it's okay for people not to perform well because others are just going to get the work? Right? All of these things lead to this systemic issue that is called burnout. So what we want to think about then from a leadership standpoint is like what we see on the screen here, a snake molting or shedding its skin. What are some things that you need to shed? So in the work that we do, one of the things I would encourage you to reevaluate is, this is an easy one, meetings. And what I got up on the screen here is it's a simple graphic here from an exercise and some work we did with one of our clients around reevaluating their meetings. And being as unreasonable as saying, you know what, we want to cut our meetings in half or make them half the time. Like, can we really reduce the number of meetings we're having? Because we've seen a massive proliferation through the pandemic with people working in all different places, that one of the go-to things that leaders are doing is they're putting more meetings on the book, more team meetings. We need to meet about this. We need to meet it, like everything around how information is exchanged, how we communicate and how we get things done seems to be showing up in terms of meetings. And that can actually be counterproductive. So in this example, what we did here, we worked with a cross-functional team, all levels in an organization, to redefine their vision of meetings so that they could get in, a better rhythm, and their people could actually, watch this, get some work done outside of meetings. Because what their people were saying is, I'm in so many meetings, I can't get my work done. And in many of the organizations we study, leaders are, spending upwards of 60% of their time in meetings. That's a lot. Individual contributors, sometimes more. So we completely recalibrated. And so they've got a system now when they think about on each day of the week, what are the kinds of meetings that they have? And if they need to veer off course, there needs to be an exception. We built in mechanisms for them to talk about that. The second thing is, that I would recommend that you look at is email. There has been a massive proliferation of email or instant communication, Slack or Teams or any of those kinds of things. Like, you really want to reevaluate what information needs to be shared and exchanged, how are you communicating, and what are the best organizational systems to use. We use, our actual, tech-enabled platform called Latch, which is a video-based storytelling platform. It is absolutely a fantastic way to help people get more clear on priorities, build authentic connection across the organization at a peer level, manager to employee, employee to manager, to help accelerate onboarding. You can think of your own thing. These are just some things that we are doing that I would recommend that you do. So let's go back to the chat line. What are some outdated rituals or routines, practices, or processes based on the conversation we're having today? What did I trigger for you that you need to shed in order to address root causes of burnout for you or your team. So what are some outdated rituals or routines or practices or processes that you need to shed? And they can be some of the things that I mentioned, and they can be others. I want to hear what you're thinking about, what I'm triggering for you as we're going through this conversation. What do you need to shed? Unnecessary meetings of some sort. Work processes that are not helping your people do their job better, but are in fact making it harder. Hiring practices that no longer work, just as examples. See, we're struggling a little bit with this one. What do you need to shed? What do you need to get rid of? What's no longer serving you well anymore? Having meetings with no clear agenda. Love that one, Nadine. What you want to do and what you're able to do are not the same. Yeah, Megan, so that absolutely requires some evaluation to see like, why is that? What are the barriers? And some of them may be organizational or systemic, and they may be things that you cannot control or you can't influence. And that can be a problem. Making sure the right people are in the meeting, Eliza, absolutely. Let's only have people in the meeting who need to be there. Sometimes there's like a CYA or a FOMO kind of thing, right? Cover my backside, or fear of missing out. I want to be invited to the meeting because I feel like if I'm not there, people are going to look at me weird, or I should be there. And then people, what do people wind up doing? They're multitasking in the meeting anyway. They're doing 5 other things. They're not really paying attention. They're not engaged. They're not getting anything, and they're not giving anything. So that's a great one to reevaluate is, do we have a clear agenda, like Nadine said? And then let's only have people in the meeting who absolutely need to be there. We can share information out afterwards with everybody who needs to be informed, but we don't need to have meetings with 15, 20, 30, 50 people in them sometimes. That absolutely warrants some reevaluation. Okay, now as we start to think about moving this more towards the individual, I am going to give you some more tools and some techniques. So we want to think about understanding, connection, and empathy as we're interacting with our team members. And this I heard one time and I absolutely loved it. And you can't be too honest. If you learn how to make it safe, psychologically safe, you can talk to almost anyone about almost anything. So here are some ways that you can do that. Start with mindset as you're engaging with your people. And this applies to one-on-ones and also team meetings. I really encourage you to have some dialogue about this. If you're not talking to your people in one-on-ones and team meetings about burnout, as an example, and how they're feeling and how they're experiencing things, you're missing a great opportunity to let people that you really care. Just saying, oh, my people know that I care. I'm always available. My door's always open. They can always reach out to me. That's lazy. That's lazy leadership. You've got to show them. And it starts with knowing where they are. And over to the right, you see this very simple question, how are you? And where you place the emphasis is critical here. And you really want to know, how are you? How are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? And then really be there with them. Laser focus, good eye contact, not multitasking. Put your devices away. Give yourself some space on the back end of the meeting. Don't be running out of the meeting, looking at your watch. Hey, I only got 5 minutes. Like, really be there with your folks. Understand their triggers. Learn their challenges. What are the barriers that are getting in the way? Explore their motivators. Even if you've worked with this person for 10 or 15 years, try to understand this current version of them. What moves the employee to action? What inspires them? Not because they have to do it, because they really want to. They feel like they're being called to it. Right now, one of the reasons that we see employees are burning out is they've lost their connection to the purpose of their work. We see this in survey and study time and time again in the organizations we work with. People are losing that connection, losing the connection to their peers, losing the connection to the purpose of their work, losing the connection between their work and the organization's purpose. Those things have become less clear and almost non-existent. And when that's the case, sure, if somebody throws more cash at your person, they're likely to take the call at least. So it starts with mindset. Second, make it safe. Make it safe by doing these things. Go first as the leader. Express gratitude by reinforcing specifically what you value and what they do. I talked about being present, being a good listener. Take some notes, ask good questions, be vulnerable. Let them know we're in this together. And there's some questions over to the right that, and some statements that we really love that you can use. Let them know that you're committed to making us better. as a team and your relationship with them. Ask them specifically, what do you find most helpful or valuable in our interactions? Over 60% of people that we studied, and we've worked with over 650 companies by now, over 60% of employees and managers report that one-on-ones and performance reviews are not as valuable as they could be. People don't look forward to one-on-ones with their bosses as the most important or most valuable meeting of the week, and they should. So what do you find most valuable and helpful in interactions, and how can I be better for you? Ask these questions. Back to the truth of the situation, right? It doesn't, truth doesn't change based on your ability to emotionally handle it. Don't be scared. I realize it can be a little scary sometimes. You're going to ask these questions. You might hear things that make you uncomfortable. They might not reinforce that you're as good of a leader as you thought in the moment. You need to know this because you can't get better if your people aren't telling you the truth. So you've got to create the space for them to have this conversation with you. This is absolutely fundamental to your ability to address, prevent, control, and reverse burnout. We talk also about this notion called stay interviews. We've got a resource at the end when we send out the deck. It's to 21 great stay interview questions. If you're not familiar with stay interviews, these are questions that you ask of your current employees. So oftentimes leaders will talk about exit interviews. Exit interviews are important for sure. But how about the people that are left behind? How about the people that stay? You need to understand how they're feeling, as opposed to people leave and then their work just gets reallocated across the people who are here, most often the best people. So ask them questions like this. Again, this is just a small smattering of the list of 21, but these are great questions. I'll leave this up for a minute so you can jot a couple of these down. The ones that I love, I want to hear. The second one, I want to hear what people dread about work every day. I want to understand if people have thought about leaving, that's actually a safe conversation to have with people. And that seems really foreign to a lot of leaders. Like, why would I want to talk about that? You're not encouraging your people to leave, but you do want to let them know that it's safe, that if they're thinking about their career, if they're thinking about other options, that they can talk to you about that. And in fact, if the decision at some point, the right one is that they should go somewhere else, that's not a taboo topic. And they're not a bad person, and they haven't abandoned you, and they're not disloyal. People's lives change. We've got to understand that as leaders. The days of somebody being a lifer, and staying around for the Rolex or the Cadillac, that's like old wives' tales by now. Those days are long, long gone, folks. We want people to be as highly engaged and perform at high levels as long as it makes sense for them to be with our company. And if we can extend that, great. And if not, that's actually okay. Asking stay interviews will help you get to the core of what you can do better as a leader. Now, I spent the last 15 or 20 minutes talking about the leadership level, but remember, this is a two-headed monster. So we've got to talk about at the individual level also. So let's do that. Much like we talked about the systems issue, as individual contributors, it's important to know that this is true. The attempt to escape from pain is usually what causes more pain. So if you're trying to get out of debt and you're trying tactics, techniques, quick fix, you'll wind up getting in more debt. If your mindset is in a bad place and you focus on the things not going well, my boss doesn't care, I'm not getting promoted, I keep missing out on job opportunities, that's what you're focusing on, that becomes debilitating. That leads to more stress, more anxiety, higher levels of burnout. You will stay in the pain more. So there's a couple models that I'm going to show you that we really, really love. One is this called the drama triangle. We did not invent this, but we love it. Love it, love it, love it. There are 3 roles here in the drama triangle, and you want to know this so that you can see how are you showing up and also recognize it in your team. This is one you can share with your team, one of those practical examples. You can do this exercise with your folks so they understand it, and this becomes then a common language where you can call out productively, hey, I just caught myself playing the persecutor role, or I'm seeing that I'm bringing a victim mentality to this conversation, which is not good. So there's 3 roles. Persecutor over on the left, this person really focuses on the problem always and blames and tears things down, always focuses on the problem and what's wrong, and the problem dominates this person's way of thinking. The rescuer over to the right, this one's a little bit tough. And it's my favorite one to focus on for this reason. This person usually shows up as they're helping, but they're not. They're unproductively enabling a situation. So they show up like when you're really low or something's not going well, it's like, oh, poor you. And they show up like a pain reliever. They're here to take your pain away. This person fears not being loved, not being included, not being valued. And so what they actually wind up doing is they keep you in the pain by dwelling in the drama that you're in and how unfair it is and what an amazing person you are. And I can't believe you're being treated this way. I can't believe your boss didn't give you the promotion, as opposed to there's time for that. And then it's like, let's talk about what you can learn from this and how you're going to move forward. Rescuers can't and don't do that. They actually keep you in the pain. You want to recognize this because it looks like they're trying to help you, but they're actually not. And then the victim is the person who shows up and it's like, poor me, the world is happening to me. Why does this happen to me? How come? Why is it? That's the way that they lead their thinking. And when you see these folks in your organization, you want to productively call it out. You need to have a way that you can, in a psychologically safe way, that you can address these things, that people realize this is not about the person, it's about how they're performing, right? This is not about the person, this is about how they're performing. It's an important distinction. Always with connection, with love, with empathy. You always start there, understanding how can you help this person be better than they are, behave better than they are? How can you help them at least see the things that they might not see so that they can take better control of their mindset and the way that they're behaving? So that's the drama triangle, which leads us to, this graphic, also one of my favorites. Gosh, we really packed this one with, all of our best hits. And this is really for you to understand at the individual level that we all have two shades of ourselves, two sides, and light and dark. And there's lots of ways to say this, but we talk about light and dark. And the dark side of us is where resistance shows up every day. And we all have this. It hits us every single day. There's also the light self, which is resilience. There's a lot of work done on how people can be more resilient. Can't get enough of that kind of thinking. Understanding where this comes from is important, though. Resistance shows up when we're our darkest selves, when we're focused on fear, when we're focused on the struggle, when we're in the pain, when we're focused on everything that we had to sacrifice, when we have terrors, night terrors, when we're distrusting of others. What's their motivation? What's their agenda? What's behind that? You think they're out to get you. Sometimes maybe they are, but oftentimes that's not the case. Right? When we're our dark self, let's not judge it. Let's just accept it. Let's love that part of ourselves. Let's love that part of our colleagues and realize everybody is going through something. And in order for us to get to the light, which is where we have willingness and discipline and grit and dreams, and we focus on the journey and the love of the work, and we operate with trust and faith as opposed to fear, we've got to get through some of the dark in order to get to the light. You want to understand this about yourself and your people. If you really want to control, reverse, and prevent burnout, making this a regular part of your leadership practice is absolutely fundamental, gang, absolutely fundamental. And Eleanor Roosevelt, this is a great quote, you actually gain, you on the call and all of your people gain strength and courage and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face, right? This isn't about, I should have no fear. No, you should have fear. We're all going to have fear, but you got to look it in the face so that you can do the thing that you think or you thought you couldn't or cannot do. That's where courage comes through. That's where the light brings you through. That's where your resilience pulls you through, because you're focused on what's most important and why. That will give you the resilience to be able to deal with the resistance that's facing you every day. There's 4 aspects or 4 areas that we know really help people do this. So I'm going to give them to you now, and then we'll begin bringing the plane in for a landing. 1, emotionally. Really make sure that you've got some good practices here to take care of yourself emotionally. This could be gratitude practice, starting and ending the day by journaling or thinking about the things you're most grateful for. Limit your time on screens. There's a book, Digital Minimalism or Digital Minimalist. I'm butchering the name, but it's one of those two that I absolutely love. It really talks about limiting the time on the screen, media, and devices. It's just not helpful for our brains. We're not giving our brains time to decompress. Shut down your technology by a certain time every night. For me, I try to shut my tech down by 8 o'clock. I don't always do it, but most of the time I do, so that I can really spend some time focused and get ready for some good sleep. Physically, exercise, got to move, take supplements that will help you, like D's and B's and zinc specifically. Those are great. So make sure we're taking care of ourselves physically. If you're not at your best, how could you be your best for your team, the people you lead, for your clients, for your family? Mentally, make sure you're getting your solid sleep. I used to think that I was great on 5 hours. And you know what? Most people that knew me okay to not well at all probably would have said I was just as good on 5 as I would be with more than 5. But the reality is, when I started playing with my sleep, I'm a 7 hours a night guy. The difference is insanely amazing. How clear I am, the better decisions that I make, how I can process things, how I can strategize, think critically. got to get your sleep. You got to have routines that help you be mentally your best, and get some coaching. We all need some help. And then spiritually, this doesn't mean necessarily, religion, it can, but meditation, breathing, reflection, these are all great practices to help you be your best. This is a great conversation to have with your people. How are they doing these things? For me, I talked about routines. I'm just sharing this with you. These are my routines. I tinker with these all the time. And I've had people say, oh, Andrew, you don't understand. You don't understand my company. You don't understand my work. You don't understand my life. This won't work for me. I don't care. And I don't mean that in a non-caring way. Come up with your own routines. I'm just sharing you mine. You don't have to use mine, but you do need to have some kind of routine that sets you up well. I wake up at 6 o'clock every day, gratitude, 15 minutes before I do anything else, before my feet hit the floor. I'm thinking about what I'm grateful for. I'm getting my head right. 6:15, we've got 2 pups. I take them out for a nice long walk, and then I work out. About 7:45, I calibrate with my wife, Joanne. Even if we talked about it the night before, which we do, really making sure that we're in sync on the plan for the day, how we're going to rock through the day, when we're coming home, what her evening, routines are, or rituals. And then 8 o'clock, value-added touch points with clients, community. I'm thinking about who I can serve, who I can give to, because that's fundamental to who I am. It gives me energy when I give to other people. And then 9 o'clock, team connections, and I'm off and rolling on whatever else the day brings from an appointment standpoint. Evening, around 5:30, done working for the day. If there's some important things that need to be addressed, I will address them, of course. 6:30, dinner and connection time with Joanne. 7:30, chill, hydrate. I love drinking water. I drink it all day throughout the day. It keeps me focused. It keeps me flushed. It keeps me fluid. 9 o'clock, pups get their last walk, and then we're just kind of decompressing. 10 o'clock, lights out. So you can see I'm giving myself 10 to 6. And I sometimes get up in the middle of the night. Sometimes I'm a little restless. So I'm still going to get my 7 hours. That's my routine. You got to think about your routine that's going to serve you well. So what's the recipe for success? The top line here is the one that most people run, how they run their day. They're just like, they're training, or they're giving themselves access to information. They're equipping themselves to do some stuff that hopefully hit some goals, produce some outcomes to reach goals. That's okay. You can get through life that way, but you're not going to be at your best, and your people won't either. Got to work on the bottom, which is working right to left, right to left. You got to start by defining success for your life, for your people, for an initiative, for a project. Always start with the end in mind. Define it, make it clear, make it tangible, align your team, your family, your organization. Let's have a common definition of what is winning, so that you can then say, all right, if this is what winning is, this is the value we need to produce. And these are the specific things we need to do to produce that value. And then we can focus on the influences, the training, the meetings, the communication, right? Unpack it, let performance unfold right to left instead of the other way around. You're going to be a lot more lean in how you spend your time. You're going to be a lot more lean in how you support your people. And you will actually find that you've got significantly more time, energy, and effort for the things that matter. Resources, you're going to get this in the deck. We're giving you at least 4. There's a bunch more that we're going to give you, but these are some that will come with the slide deck that we send out for you registering and joining us today. And if you haven't gotten Thrive, this is a plug because it's a book, as Katie mentioned, that I wrote, but it really was designed to be the leader's guide to building a high performance culture. There's so much stuff in there that you can just grab onto and put into play right away. So this is, a bit about what I think about the book. Good results today, gang, they put you out of business. Great results keep you in the middle of the pack. Organizations that truly thrive set new standards for business. So we're going to give you one of the things we're going to give you today. You'll get some more follow-up in the email. So there's a little Easter egg for you to be looking for. But for the first 10 people that email us at team@shiftthework.com, team@shiftthework.com, Julie will put that in the chat. We're going to give you a signed copy of Thrive. If you haven't gotten it already, or even if you did, you'll get another one, a signed copy of Thrive, this guidebook, this playbook, so that you can really build this high performance culture, and you can control and reverse and prevent the burnout that truly is plaguing all of our folks today. So with that, I'm going to stop to share, come back to the big checkerboard. You all have been awesome.